At midnight, unable to fall asleep, I decided to go downstairs to get some water. Being careful not to make any noise, I approached and saw that the lights were unexpectedly on. I could also hear my hushed voice.
Did you see her? The way she desperately tries to please us. It's hilarious.
Yeah, the look on her face when she saw the food in the trash. Priceless.
And when she asked, "Did you not like it?" I almost burst out laughing.
She's useless.
They were laughing as they mocked me. I wished it were just a bad dream. But it had already reached a point where I could no longer ignore it. I had reached my breaking point. Ever since Lucas and Anna moved into our newly built house a few months ago, they had completely ignored me. The three of them would smirk at me with unsettling grins. Lately, I'd gone beyond anger and sadness. I felt nothing at all. Once I decided to leave this house, I wasted no time. I quietly returned to my room and started looking for a temporary apartment. The next evening after work, I packed my essentials, stuffing what I needed into my suitcase. After leaving the house and arriving at my temporary apartment, all three of them called me that same day.
"Mom, get back here now."
I was planning to treat you to dinner tonight. Please, just come back home.
Where the hell are you? Stop being stubborn and come home.
All of them kept saying the same thing, telling me to come back over and over. Thinking back on everything that had happened, I gave them my response. My name is Jessica. I work full-time while also managing the household. My husband, Brian, also works, and every morning at the breakfast table, he complains about his coworkers. It's become a daily routine.
These younger employees today don't even want to answer the phone. It's ridiculous.
Well, times have changed. Everything is handled through social media now.
They have no sense of professionalism. Back when I was their age.
And from there, he goes on and on about his past. I usually just listen, trying not to roll my eyes. To be honest, Brian has a pretty old-fashioned mindset. He believes that men should work outside the home, while women should stay home, take care of the household, and devote themselves to their husbands. He also insists on having control over everything at home, playing the role of the traditional head of the household. When our son, Lucas, got married and moved out, Brian wasn't happy when I told him I wanted to work full-time, but I managed to convince him.
Oh, by the way, about the new house we're planning to build.
Brian brought it up with excitement, and I responded with a half-hearted reply. Even though he's already in his 50s, he suddenly decided he wanted to buy a brand new house. He claims that spending retirement in a new home would be much more comfortable than staying in an old one. But isn't our current house fine? Instead of rebuilding, we could just remodel.
Nope, not happening. It has to be brand new.
Once Brian made up his mind, he refused to budge, insisting that we had to build a new house whether I liked it or not. In the end, I gave in and contacted a home builder.
Once it's finished, let's invite Lucas and Anna over for a party. They'll love it.
Brian was already getting excited, planning out the party menu. Of course, it was obvious he'd leave all the arrangements and serving up to me while he just picked the dishes. I let out a quiet sigh. Before long, the new house was completed, and Brian and I moved in right away. That distinct scent of fresh wood, typical of a new home, filled the air.
Aren't you glad we built it?
Brian puffed out his chest proudly. Even though it was just the two of us, a two-story house felt a little too big. But for once, I had to admit, I was kind of happy too. A month later, Brian and I invited Lucas and Anna over for a housewarming party. As soon as our son Lucas and his wife Anna stepped inside, their eyes lit up. Since they were currently living in an apartment, they couldn't stop expressing their amazement.
It's huge.
Wow, what a beautiful house.
Brian, clearly pleased with their reaction, casually threw out a suggestion.
You know, if you guys want, you could move in with us. We've got plenty of extra rooms.
Come on now, there's no way they'd want to live with us. Stop joking. I laughed it off, and the night ended on a warm and cheerful note. Never in a million years did I expect them to take those words seriously and actually move in. Just a few days after the party, Lucas and Anna showed up with huge suitcases in tow. What's with all that stuff? Dumbfounded, I stared at them as Lucas tilted his head.
What do you mean? We came to live here.
Brian said it was okay, didn't he?
Without a hint of hesitation, they walked right in like they owned the place. When I asked about their apartment, they said they had already started the lease termination process and would be out by the end of the month. This is way too sudden. I had hoped they would live independently, so I tried to gently discourage them. But they wouldn't hear it. Instead, they turned to Brian for support.
It's fine. Whether it's one extra person or two, what's the difference?
It's not just about numbers.
Besides, they already canceled their lease. They'd have nowhere to go. That'd be cruel.
That's their responsibility. Even as I argued, Brian refused to budge. And just like that, they practically forced their way into living with us. After a while, a moving truck pulled up in front of the house, and a group of strong-looking movers started unloading boxes one after another. Once they were done, they left with bright, friendly smiles. After that, Lucas and Anna's belongings were scattered all over the new house. But instead of unpacking, the two of them just made themselves comfortable in the living room. They lounged around, scrolling through their phones, doing absolutely nothing. Aren't these your things? You need to put them away. There was barely any room to walk.
We're tired. You do it, Mom.
They hadn't even lifted a finger. Almost everything had been carried in by the movers. Brian didn't say a word as he watched them. He just gave the pile of boxes a quick sideways glance. Brian, say something to them.
Don't be so uptight, Jessica. Just do it for them. We're family after all.
With that, he turned his attention back to his phone. Why me? I thought to myself, but took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Some of those boxes probably had fragile or valuable items inside. Even though we were family, I didn't feel comfortable handling their personal belongings. Anna, could you at least help me out? At that, all 6 eyes turned to me, and they responded one after another.
Are you trying to bully your daughter-in-law? What a monster-in-law.
Unbelievable.
Where's your hospitality?
I was completely baffled by how they were treating me like I was the unreasonable one. All I did was ask them to unpack their own belongings. How was that wrong? Fine. Forcing a smile, I simply gave in and started unpacking. While the 3 of them relaxed, I worked alone, sorting through their things. By the time I finished, the sun had set, and I was already exhausted before even starting to cook dinner for the 4 of us. That night, completely drained, I fell asleep the moment I hit the bed. The next morning, still feeling exhausted, I made my way down to the living room. There, I found the 3 of them already up, sipping coffee.
Thanks for yesterday.
As I stared at them absent-mindedly, Lucas muttered those words. It didn't sound particularly sincere, so I just gave a short, indifferent reply.
To show our appreciation, we'll treat you to dinner tonight.
I thought I must have misheard, but apparently not.
Anna and I are going grocery shopping today.
Anna glanced at me from a distance and gave a small nod. Oh, well, that would be nice. I'll leave it to you then.
Jessica, we just moved in and we're a little short on cash.
So, actually, could we borrow your card?
I blinked in surprise. They were planning to use my card to buy groceries and then treat me to dinner with the food they bought, which felt a little off. But they asked for my credit card so confidently that I almost started to doubt myself. Should I really give it to them? I glanced at Brian, but he just sipped his coffee as if none of this concerned him. I hesitated, but since I wanted to maintain a good relationship with them, I decided to lend them my card just this once. Lucas and Anna lit up like kids who had just gotten an allowance. Make sure you use it responsibly. I warned them, though deep down, I was a little hopeful. I had hoped that this dinner would be an opportunity for us to grow closer. You can use anything in the kitchen, including the dishes. The spices are in this cabinet. I opened each cabinet, showing Anna where everything was, and she nodded in response. She seemed a bit unenthusiastic, but I didn't think much of it. That evening, when I came home from work as usual, Lucas and Anna had already prepared dinner. Oh, how nice that would have been. Instead, when I stepped into the living room, the house was dark and eerily quiet. I turned on the lights to see if Lucas and Anna were somewhere in the house, but they were nowhere to be found. On the living room table, there were only a few store-bought deli items, likely from the nearby grocery store. And right in the middle of the table, there was a note left behind.
We're eating out.
That was all it said. As I stood there in shock, Brian came home and glanced at the dining table. The moment he saw the store-bought food, his face twisted in irritation.
A housewife shouldn't be cutting corners.
It wasn't me. This was Anna and Lucas doing. They said they would take care of dinner tonight. Even after finishing my meal, I couldn't shake my frustration. The next morning, I wanted to confront Lucas and Anna about what had happened the night before. "Good morning." But when I greeted them, my words seemed to dissolve into thin air. No one responded. Up until yesterday, they would at least reply. Feeling that something was off, I went ahead and prepared breakfast for 4 and set it on the table. However, no one touched the food. They just sat in the living room, sipping their coffee in silence. I decided to take the initiative and greeted them again, trying to create an opportunity to talk. "Good morning." No response. The next day, and the day after that, the three of them remained silent, refusing to acknowledge me no matter how many times I spoke to them. Even after a month, nothing changed. I kept preparing meals, only to be completely ignored, leaving me with nothing but a sense of emptiness. Maybe this is my fault somehow. I didn't know how long this would last, but I told myself I needed to endure it to some extent. Hoping that one day the three of them would open up to me, I made an effort to reach out. I cooked Brian's favorite meals, tried reminiscing with Lucas about his childhood, and invited Anna to go grocery shopping. But no matter what I did, they kept ignoring me, and time just dragged on. Another week passed, and not only did they refuse to eat the meals I made, but they even started throwing them in the trash. "Lucas, I thought you liked this dish?" I could hear my own voice trembling. That meal was something I had made from scratch, a dish he had loved since he was a child. Watching him silently toss the food straight into the trash can beside the sink filled me with a strange sense of fear. Not long after that, Brian handed me a piece of paper. No, rather than handing it to me, it would be more accurate to say he threw it at me. Just as I was about to enter the living room, I saw it a neatly folded paper airplane, aimed straight at me. Ouch, what is this? I picked up the paper that had hit my forehead. It looks like some kind of document, but what is it? Suspicious, I unfolded it, only to find that it was a divorce form. Brian had already filled out his part, leaving only my section blank. In disbelief, I turned toward where the paper airplane had come from, only to see Brian smirking at me. Beside him, Lucas and Anna were giggling, mocking me. A divorce form, of all things. He was making it clear that he wanted to end our marriage. Overwhelmed, I ran out of the living room and locked myself in my room. In shock, my mind spun as I paced around the room. They're not just ignoring me anymore. They've escalated to this kind of harassment. What is going on? I couldn't stop thinking about the possibility of divorce, and the thought unsettled me. For the next 3 months, the silent treatment continued, along with the relentless paper airplane divorce form. I had assumed this harassment would end soon, but there was no sign of it stopping. The three of them would smirk at me with eerie grins. At this point, I felt nothing anymore. I was beyond anger or sadness. I was just completely exasperated. Should I just divorce him? A small voice in my head whispered the thought. Around this time, I started keeping a journal to organize my thoughts. I opened my notebook, grabbed a random pen from my drawer, and began scribbling. I had recently discovered that Lucas and Anna weren't working at all. I overheard them chatting with Brian, completely ignoring my presence. I wasn't sure if they had lost their jobs before or after moving in, but they had been without income for quite some time. Worse, they had no intention of getting jobs or helping out around the house. They even scoffed at the idea. So what were they doing while they were out during the day? Apparently, they were just using my credit card to have fun. The card I had lent them to buy groceries had never been returned. When I checked my statements, they were filled with charges from high-end restaurants and luxury brands. They often went out, saying they were going to eat out, but they were always using my card. Brian, however, didn't seem to say anything about it. The thought of them treating money as if it were an endless fountain infuriated me. Finishing my entry, I closed my notebook and shut my eyes. What exactly do they want from me? One night, I suddenly woke up for no reason. Even though I knew I needed sleep for work the next day, I couldn't seem to fall back asleep. At midnight, I decided to go downstairs to get some water. Being careful not to make any noise, I approached and saw that the lights were unexpectedly on. It wasn't just the lights spilling out from the doorway. I could also hear Brian's voice.
Did you see her? The way she desperately tries to please us. It's hilarious.
Yeah, the look on her face when she saw the food in the trash. Priceless.
And when she asked, "Did you not like it?" I almost burst out laughing.
Honestly, her cooking is below average anyway. Good job, Lucas.
I really wish she'd stop inviting me to go grocery shopping with her.
She's useless.
They were laughing as they mocked me. I wished it were just a bad dream. But it had already reached a point where I could no longer ignore it. I had reached my breaking point. Once I decided to leave this house, I wasted no time. I quietly returned to my room and started looking for a temporary apartment. The next evening after work, I packed up my essentials, stuffing what I needed into my suitcase. A few days later, I signed the lease, got the keys, and headed straight to my new place. That morning, all three of them had gone out, leaving the house empty. I called the credit card company to cancel my account and had the card deactivated. There was no reason to let them keep using it freely any longer. As I left the new house I had just moved into and arrived at my temporary apartment, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. The thought that I no longer had to endure everything made my shoulders relax, and I sank to the floor. That night, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and immediately saw that it was a call from Lucas. Hello?
Mom? Get back here now. The card isn't working.
Yes, I canceled it.
Are you kidding me? You can't just do that. What am I supposed to do? I already ate my steak.
Oh, so they had steak tonight? Must be nice. I muttered to myself in my head. Figure it out yourself. I shut him down and hung up the call as he continued to yell. Oh, so now you want to talk to me? How convenient. The next call was from Anna. It happened just as I was about to boil water for instant noodles. Hello.
Jessica, it's me. Lucas told me you canceled the card. Why would you do that?
She spoke through quiet sobs, sounding as if she were truly heartbroken.
I was planning to treat you to dinner tonight. Please, just come back home.
Her fake sincerity was unbearable, so I decided to say what I really thought. Anna, I'd be much happier if you treated me with money you actually earned.
That's so cruel. You're making it sound like I don't work at all.
Do you really think I don't know?
Well,
She stammered, clearly caught off guard. Go wash your face with some soup and try again. I shut her down and hung up. She was probably staring at her phone in confusion right now. By the way, wash your face with soup and try again is a way of telling someone to wake up and get their act together. Rather than relying on my credit card forever, she should get a part-time job and start supporting herself. The next call came from Brian. I had just poured hot water into my noodles and was about to wait 3 minutes. When I answered, I could hear the panic in his voice.
Where the hell are you? Stop being stubborn and come home.
Let me guess, you can't use the credit card anymore? There was a brief pause before he spoke.
How did you know? Yeah, that's exactly it.
I just got off the phone with the other two. Sorry, but I'm divorcing you.
What the hell are you talking about? Where are you?
Like I tell you, you, Lucas, and Anna can enjoy each other's company.
Are you kidding? Those two are nothing but parasites.
Oh, so he knew, yet he still let them use my card freely. I was too stunned to even respond.
They only moved in because they thought I was the one paying for the new house. They actually think I covered all the costs.
Oh dear, that sounds rough. I laughed.
Don't laugh. I was willing to keep you around as a housekeeper, and this is how you repay me.
I could almost see his face turning red with rage over the phone. Saying he was willing to keep me around as a housekeeper was quite the bold statement. Betray you? Who's really the one who did that? I asked, thinking back to everything that had happened. The truth was, that house had been built on land I inherited from my late parents. I was the legal owner. The land and house were in my name. Brian was the one who wanted to build a new house, but he couldn't afford the construction costs or even qualify for a loan. So, I had no choice but to pay for it with my savings. Yet he had invited Lucas and Anna to move in without asking me, ignored me, and even threw divorce papers at me. And who exactly made all that happen?
Shut up. You're such a damn net.
He spat the words furiously.
My wife's inheritance is my inheritance too. Ever heard of asset division?
The inheritance I received from my parents isn't subject to asset division.
What?
I wasn't an expert in law, but I was pretty sure I had heard that somewhere before.
That's a lie. You're just trying to cheat me.
Brian was shouting on the other end of the phone. Yelling about it won't change anything. When I said that, he became even more furious.
Then fine. We'll just change the name on the deed. I'll have the house and land transferred to me right now.
Are you planning to go to the courthouse tonight? Because I already told you. I'm divorcing you.
Can't I just go to a real estate office and get it done quickly?
My head started to ache. Brian had never dealt with contracts or paperwork before. He had always dumped those things on me. If he really believed that, he should try going to a real estate office himself. They'd probably just laugh in his face. Speaking of real estate, I paused before continuing. I already listed the house and land for sale. Once it's sold, I need you to move out. While arranging my temporary housing, I figured I might as well put the property on the market. The location was great, and the real estate agent was confident it would sell quickly. In fact, ever since it was listed, there had been a lot of interest. When I said that, Brian seemed unable to process it and didn't say a word in response. All that confidence from earlier had completely disappeared. It was almost comical. Oh, and I already filed the divorce papers you threw at me. We're officially done, so don't contact me again.
What do you mean? Wait. Hey.
He suddenly snapped back to reality and started panicking, but it was too late. We're divorced, Brian. Goodbye.
No, wait. Before that, what did you just say? Are you listening?
I ended the call before he could finish. The cup of noodles had been sitting there, the noodles now too soft. Realizing that I was finally free from them, even overcooked noodles tasted good. About a week after listing the house for sale, I received a call saying a buyer had been found. Since it was a newly built home, I expected it to be quite expensive, but the buyer was willing to pay the full amount in cash. I immediately agreed, and we scheduled the sales contract for a later date. Before that, the real estate agent suggested we inspect the property one last time, so we went to check on it. To my surprise, the three of them were still living there. Trash was scattered everywhere. The kitchen was covered in burn marks, apparently from a failed cooking attempt. Dust blanketed the rooms, and even the bathroom had a foul odor. It was in no condition to be handed over to anyone, so I had no choice but to have them vacate and schedule a deep cleaning service. Shocked, the real estate agent and I explained the situation to them. They protested loudly, saying they wouldn't accept it, but in the end, they were forced to leave. They put on a show, acting as if they understood and would move out soon, but I knew better. Sure enough, after we left, they bombarded me with phone calls. One after another, my phone rang every few minutes. Their sheer desperation was exhausting. I blocked all 3 of their numbers and cut them off on social media. Then they went as far as showing up at my workplace, so I cut ties with them right then and there. Brian was furious, but Lucas and Anna looked genuinely shocked.
You don't have to go that far.
This is too cruel, Jessica.
But not me, right? I mean, I'm your son. Oh, I know. Why don't you make my favorite meal again? I threw it out last time, but I actually love that dish.
In that instant, I remembered the sight of him tossing my food into the trash. Did he really think that back then? Don't say things just because it's convenient for you. I shut him down and turned my back on them. That was the last time I ever saw Lucas, Anna, or Brian. I had no idea where they moved, nor did I care. After leaving my temporary housing, I moved into a small apartment on my own. I continued working, but now I was finally enjoying the freedom of living alone. I had more time for myself. Maybe I'd study for a certification or start a new hobby. But for now, I just wanted to enjoy this peaceful time a little longer. I didn't need a brand new house. This small apartment was still my own little castle. Maybe I'll redecorate, add some dried flowers, and cook just for myself. Thinking about all that, I slowly poured hot water into my cup of noodles.